So, against my better judgment, I watched one of these overly enthusiastic, pie in the sky, rose colored fucking goggles, space guys talking about the next great adventure to Mars with Elon Musk and SpaceX. And it's not SpaceX, it's always Elon Musk. It's always, his name is always associated with the project more than SpaceX. And, I look at the program and I'm like, what? You guys are talking about landing on the fucking moon. And as far as I know of, now this is just my opinion, okay? As far as I know, that the landing pads are built specifically to take the forces that are involved in retro-rocketing yourself back to the surface. Even in 1/6 gravity, if you're going to use reactive rockets engines that are pointed at the ground, the moon is basically covered in regolith. It's covered in a dust that has caused many problems for the astronauts that walked on the moon. The shit was fucking everywhere. Static electricity had it sticking to everything. They were actually worried about some of the seals being affected. This whole fantasy. So far, Starship has not impressed me. I've watched it burn up twice, and to think that you would put cargo in it is unthinkable, let alone people, until you can do it on a regular basis. And I'm talking about at least 2 or 3 entries with acceptable, degradation of the vehicle, especially if it's going to be reusable. It's going to need a complete and total redesign of the fins. There's too much. There's too much air pressure buildup there. There's too much. It's just, there has to be a point where this laminar effect around the vehicle, because you notice they don't have to put any heat tiles on the top. It's not like the heat wraps around, because it's atmosphere. It's the exact opposite of when a vehicle leaves. When you see a rocket ship leave, at first there's this long needle-like plume that comes out of the bottom of the vehicle. But when they start leaving the atmosphere, that cone starts to widen quite significantly until pretty soon it's almost coming straight out of the nozzle. It's almost directly, there's almost a 90-degree impulse from that engine all the way around the lip of the bell. Okay? I see no way. I just don't see any way. So they're going to need a minimum of 10 fuel trips with Starship to fuel up a moon-bound Starship. And then they're going to land on this regolith. You saw what it did to the landing pad there at SpaceX, right? It does some pretty serious damage. We're not talking about landing a booster here. We're talking about landing Starship. And what I see is just this thing coming down, blowing through 60 fucking meters of regolith, and just having the vehicle fall into it. Which means before we can land Starship on the moon, you're going to have to send other vehicles that are capable of building a landing pad on the moon where you want to go. And 10 refuelings. And are you going to use, what type of engine are you going to use for restarting? Is it going to be hypergolic? Because that's what's safe. Yeah, the chemicals are extremely fucking dangerous, but Still, it works every time. There's no guessing if it's going to work. Okay? They haven't even decided on that yet. The entries that I've seen so far are bad. You notice we haven't seen the rest of the vehicle that supposedly soft landed. I haven't seen any pictures of it. I haven't seen any news. I haven't heard anybody talk about them picking it up. Did they pick it up? Haven't heard anything. It's a fantasy without a cause other than one man's ego. It's like, you want to know why there's a war going on and thousands of people are dying every day in Ukraine? Because one fucking demented guy has a dream that he wants to accomplish. And it doesn't matter what kind of suffering is caused by it. And when I see Elon Musk talking about going to the fucking moon and going to Mars, I'm thinking, okay, so how much carbon are you going to put in the atmosphere and still not be able to land on the moon? Because it's just some fucking dream that's dangerous and going to hurt people. What? I mean, why are you going to the fucking moon? Helium-3? Is that why? Well, give me a reason other than exploration, which is why we haven't been back. Okay? It's a fantasy. It's a fucking fantasy. And the problem is that the issues that we're having here on this planet now could be further addressed. Instead of these pie-in-the-sky fucking dreams about space exploration, all right? All these companies are doing is contaminating low Earth orbit. That's what they're doing. He wants to put 40,000 satellites in low Earth orbit. Yes, we talked about deorbiting devices a long time ago, before he even started his program. And he said he was going to do that. This is the problem. We've had 5 or 6 big pieces of these communication satellites entering the atmosphere and not burning up completely, and actually hitting structures where people live. Why go to Mars? We can't live on Mars. You're not going to live on Mars. Physiologically, right now, we know that our livers and our kidneys, after a while in microgravity, start to get a disease. They have a name for it. I can't remember. It's an atrophying almost, and it's not conducive to long stays for human beings. The things that need to be overcome for Mars. I mean, are we talking a one-way trip here? Is that what we're talking about? People willing to take the risk, some kind of absurd risk of a one-way trip? It's just, I mean, none of it makes, I operate in a very logical manner, which makes me appear to be cynical when in fact I'm merely educated. I see zero reason for a trip to Mars other than one possible thing, and we can do that with robotics, okay? And that is, did life ever exist on Mars? We may have to build a more, ambitious rover than what we've had so far, but they've done very good work. We've learned a lot, and that's enough. But as far as to go there, just to fucking say you went there and built a building and you're going to live there is absolutely ludicrous. You don't have a functioning mind. If you believe that that's possible, then you don't understand all of the little things that are involved. Not little things, all the big things that are involved, as well as all the little things that are involved. It's a fantasy, okay? This world, at the current rate that it's heating, without applying methane into the formula, is headed for a crash fucking landing itself. And thinking of going to Mars is going to be out of the question, trust me. Nobody's going to give a fuck about going to Mars, because everyone's finally realized we're in serious goddamn trouble here, okay? And The reason that it's the moon is because, you see, Elon Musk wants people to think that he's this great fucking leader figure that's going to take us to the moon, that he's going to do it. No, listen, man, you just got a lot of fucking money. And I will give him credit for putting his money on the line for shit he believes in. I swear, man, the guy's got fucking balls the size of Wisconsin, man. He's put it on the line numerous times, and he's been right each time because of hard work, and I understand that. Okay, that part of it is that what he's accomplished as far as bringing electric cars to the forefront. I will always be grateful for that. But to dilute reality from his position of power is unacceptable for me. That motherfucker should be one of the first people out there saying climate change is real and we are in serious goddamn trouble. How come we're not including methane into these things? Does anyone know what methane hydrates are, or what the AMOC is? Do people understand truly what this crash we're fucking headed for is going to happen? It's not May. It's going to happen, and when it does, how are we going to feed, 8 billion people? Well, we're not going to be able to. Just that alone is a terrifying thought because of what people are willing to do when they're starving to death. Because society has collapsed, because no one wants to buy anything, because no one has money to spend on anything other than food. That's it. There will come a day when people understand the world is fucked. And when that day comes, they'll stop buying fetishized bullshit from fucking Amazon, and that company will be out of business in a matter of weeks. People will understand the severity of the fucking situation we're in and not be dreaming about going to the moon and Mars. That all these fucking billionaires, well, guess what? You're not a billionaire anymore. Here's your $1 billion. Everything else is taxed 100%. It now belongs to the Earth Fund, where we can try to fucking save ourselves. And all this money starts being spent on mitigation instead of going to the moon. That is a goddamn fantasy. And this guy was talking shit like he was writing a goddamn science fiction book about going to Mars and the moon. And how, this guy was like so over the top. Fucking SpaceX was just infallible, and look at all they've accomplished. And it was really just a fucking brainwashing session. It was just so intense. And I thought, this motherfucker has no idea what he's talking about. He talks about going to Mars like it's going down to the goddamn grocery store, or landing on the moon, without telling me, what are you going to fucking land on? Are you going to use reactive rockets on a fucking vehicle the size of Starship, and you're going to land tail first on the fucking moon? Now, there may be some basaltic flats of lava somewhere that might act as a landing pad, but then what do you accomplish by landing in the middle of where you got 1,000 miles of fucking basalt in every direction? You know what I mean? Basalt is something that they could use. They could land on that. But that's it. You're not landing on the regolith. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous to even contemplate doing that. We're talking about a big vehicle. We're not talking about the LEM, okay? We're talking about a big vehicle. We already see that it's not that simple either by how many probes have crashed. I don't know. I don't know what to, other than do videos and explain to people that fantasy needs to be ignored. He can't be rewarded for doing things that are negative for society, which is exactly what he's doing, okay? He's supposedly some free speech fucking knight in shining armor, but if you say anything about him, that motherfucker wants to sue you in a heartbeat. He wants to sue advertisers for not advertising on his X, fucking Twitter, that he paid $44 billion for, that was worth 22. And he's been in the hole ever since. And he knows he made a mistake, but he's like the stubborn fucking guy who refuses to admit he was wrong. Refuses to admit he was just wrong. And he's got himself poorer for it. Now, that money could have been spent to build 50 hospitals throughout the United States, and the guy would have been a hero instead of being looked at as a fool for buying Twitter for double its fucking worth. See? He's never built or designed a rocket engine. He never built or designed the electrics that drive electric vehicles. He's never designed or built a battery. He's never done anything. People need to remember that. When he starts talking, it's because the guy has enough money, he can say, I want to do this. See? And then he has enough money to hire the right people and then drive those people to a goal. Now, he's good at doing that, which we can see that the Falcon program is extremely successful. This is the first failure we've had, right? When the vac engine refused to start a second time for its entry burn or insertion burn, and it supposedly blew up. So it does happen still. Even though he made it look pretty routine, it still happens. And now you've got these Boeing astronauts stranded on the space station. Don't fucking say they're not stranded. They're stranded. Okay? When you keep putting off, when you keep moving that deadline like this, that means they're stranded. It doesn't mean anything other than that. They're fucking stranded on the space station. Otherwise, you wouldn't have delay after delay after delay after delay. Okay? They're fucking stranded. That just goes to show you how hard it is. And we're going to spend all this time, effort, and money at SpaceX to go to the moon. I find it absurd. SpaceX should be an environmental company. You want to put satellites in space? Put satellites in space to monitor temperature, atmospheric energy levels, that kind of thing, okay? And then you'll have my respect again. But as long as it's about you starting another business with fucking space internet and shit, it's always about a profit thing with you. That I'm not interested in being part of your, cult of personality. Until I see you doing something humane for humanity, you're just another fucking billionaire as far as I'm concerned. As simple as that, okay? And the distraction that you pose when you talk about going to the moon and Mars is destructive for the entire, planet in so many ways.